He was 17 years old, a star athlete with a full scholarship to an Ivy League school, the pride of his billionaire father's empire. Then one night, he went to bed perfectly fine and woke up unable to move his legs. The doctors ran every test imaginable and found nothing. His father threw money at the problem, hiring the best specialists in the world. But no one could explain it. Everyone called it a medical mystery. Everyone except the quiet maid who cleaned his room every day. She noticed something the doctors missed. Something so small, so carefully hidden, that it almost destroyed a young man's entire future. What she discovered didn't just save his life. It exposed a betrayal so deep, it shattered a family forever. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. And please, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. The Morrison family lived in a world most people only saw in magazines. Their estate sat on 50 acres of perfectly landscaped property just outside the city. The main house was an architectural masterpiece, all glass and steel and modern design. Inside, everything was pristine. White marble floors that reflected the chandeliers above. Furniture that cost more than most people's cars. Art on the walls that belonged in museums. Marcus Morrison, the father, had built his fortune in tech and real estate. At 52, he was one of the wealthiest men in the state. His company had offices in 12 countries. His face appeared on business magazine covers. People called him a genius, a visionary, a titan of industry. He lived up to the image. Always in expensive suits. Always composed. Always in control. His new wife, Vanessa, was 34. She had been his executive assistant before becoming his wife 3 years ago, shortly after his first wife died in a car accident. Vanessa was beautiful in a calculated way. Perfect blonde hair. Designer clothes. A smile that never quite reached her eyes. She played the role of the devoted wife flawlessly in public. But those who looked closely could see the coldness underneath. Then there was Nathan, Marcus's only son from his first marriage. 17 years old and everything a father could be proud of. 6 feet tall with his mother's dark hair and his father's sharp features. Athletic, intelligent, charming. Nathan was the captain of his school's basketball team. He had a 4.0 GPA. He volunteered at a local youth center on weekends. He had been accepted to Princeton with a full athletic scholarship. His future was golden, limitless, perfect. Nathan was the kind of young man people naturally gravitated toward. He was confident without being arrogant. He treated everyone with respect, from his father's business partners to the staff who worked in the house. He had his mother's kindness, that's what people always said. His mother, Claire, had died when Nathan was 14. A rainy night, a slippery road, a truck that didn't stop at a red light. The accident destroyed Marcus, or at least that's what everyone thought at the time. He threw himself into work, barely speaking for months. Nathan had grieved differently, quietly, keeping his pain inside and pushing himself harder in school and sports. A year after Claire's death, Vanessa started appearing in their lives. First as the helpful assistant who brought Marcus files at home. Then as the woman who stayed for dinner. Then as the woman who moved in. Then as the wife. Nathan never liked her. He was polite, respectful even, but there was no warmth there. He saw how she looked at his father's money, his houses, his lifestyle. He saw how she smiled differently when Marcus was watching versus when he wasn't. But Nathan kept his feelings to himself. His father seemed happy, or at least less sad, and Nathan didn't want to cause problems. He focused on school, on basketball, on building his own future. He spent as little time at home as possible, which wasn't hard given his busy schedule. The house had staff, of course. A team of people who kept everything running smoothly. There was Raymond, the groundskeeper who had worked for the family for 20 years. There was Patricia, the cook who prepared elaborate meals that Vanessa barely touched. And there was Rosa. Rosa Martinez had worked for the Morrison family for 15 years. She had started when Nathan was just 2 years old, back when Claire was alive and the house felt like a home instead of a museum. Rosa was 56 now. With graying hair she kept in a neat bun and warm brown eyes that seemed to see everything. She was quiet, hardworking, and invisible in the way good household staff learn to be. But Rosa had watched Nathan grow up. She had bandaged his scraped knees when he was little. She had listened to him practice his spelling words. She had been there the day they got the news about Claire, and she had held Nathan while he cried when no one else was around. Rosa loved that boy like he was her own son. She had sons of her own, grown now with families, but Nathan held a special place in her heart. She saw Claire in him, the kindness and warmth that Vanessa and Marcus seemed to lack. Rosa didn't trust Vanessa. She never had. There was something about the woman that set off alarm bells. The way she dismissed the staff. The way she looked at Nathan sometimes, with something that wasn't quite hatred but wasn't far from it. The way she controlled Marcus's schedule, his social calendar, his entire life. But Rosa, like Nathan, kept her concerns to herself. It wasn't her place to speak up. She was just the maid. Everything changed on a Tuesday night in October. Nathan had basketball practice after school, then studied at the library with his teammates. He came home around 9, ate the dinner Patricia had left warming for him, and went upstairs to his room. He texted his girlfriend good night. He finished some calculus homework. He set his alarm for 6 a.m. because he had a morning workout. Then he went to sleep, perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, with no idea that his life was about to be destroyed. Nathan woke up at 6:15 a.m. to his alarm blaring. He reached over to turn it off, annoyed that he'd overslept. He threw back the covers and tried to get out of bed. Nothing happened. He tried again, telling his legs to move, to swing over the side of the bed, to stand up. Nothing. Nathan looked down at his legs in confusion. He could see them. They looked normal. But they wouldn't respond. He tried to wiggle his toes. Nothing. He tried to bend his knees. Nothing. Panic hit him like a wave. He sat up using just his arms and stared at his motionless legs. "Move," he said out loud. "Come on, move." But they didn't. It was like his brain was sending signals that never arrived. Like someone had cut the connection between his mind and his body. Nathan's heart raced. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a dream. Some kind of weird sleep paralysis. He'd wake up in a minute and everything would be fine. But he was awake. This was real. "Dad!" Nathan shouted. "Dad, something's wrong." His voice cracked with fear. Footsteps pounded in the hallway. Marcus burst through the door, still in his pajamas. "What's wrong? What happened?" Nathan's face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. "I can't move my legs. Dad, I can't feel my legs." The next few hours were a blur of chaos. An ambulance. Emergency room. Tests. X-rays. CT scan. Blood work. Neurologists. Orthopedic specialists. Doctors consulting in hushed voices. Marcus made phone calls, demanding the best specialists, throwing his money and influence at the problem. Vanessa stood in the corner of the hospital room, her face unreadable, saying little. And Nathan lay in the hospital bed, terrified and confused, staring at legs that refused to work. The doctors found nothing. No spinal injury. No tumor. No stroke. No blood clots. No neurological damage they could identify. Everything looked completely normal. Except Nathan couldn't walk. By evening, they transferred Nathan to a private room in the best hospital in the city. More specialists came. More tests. Everyone had theories but no answers. Psychosomatic paralysis, one doctor suggested. Sometimes extreme stress or trauma manifests physically. Nathan shook his head. He wasn't stressed. Everything in his life was going great. Conversion disorder, another doctor proposed. A psychological condition where the mind affects the body. We should consult with a psychiatrist. Marcus exploded at that suggestion. "There's nothing wrong with my son's mind. Find out what's wrong with his body." Rare autoimmune disorder, someone else offered. "We'll need more specialized tests. Unusual viral infection affecting the nervous system. We'll run more blood work." By the third day, Nathan had been poked, scanned, tested, and examined by what felt like 100 doctors. And no one had any answers. His legs remained paralyzed from the hips down. He could feel touch, could feel temperature, but he couldn't move them. Couldn't stand. Couldn't walk. His basketball career was over. His scholarship was gone. His entire future had vanished overnight for reasons no one could explain. Marcus spared no expense. He flew in specialists from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, even doctors from Switzerland and Japan. They all examined Nathan. They all ran tests. They all left scratching their heads. Vanessa played the role of concerned stepmother when others were watching. She'd sit by Nathan's bedside and hold his hand for the doctors and nurses to see. But when they were alone, she was different. Distant. Cold. Her eyes calculating. "Such a shame," she said one afternoon when it was just the two of them. "You had such a bright future." Nathan looked at her, catching something odd in her tone. "I'm going to get better. They'll figure out what's wrong." Vanessa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, I'm sure they will." But the way she said it made Nathan's skin crawl. After 2 weeks in the hospital with no progress, the doctors suggested Nathan go home. They'd continue outpatient treatment and testing. A physical therapist would come to the house. They'd monitor his condition. But there was nothing more the hospital could do right now. The house was modified for wheelchair accessibility. A ramp was installed. A medical bed was set up in the downstairs guest room because Nathan couldn't manage the stairs. A nurse was hired to help with his care. And Nathan came home, his life completely shattered, trapped in a body that refused to work. Rosa was there when they brought him home. She stood in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes as she watched them wheel Nathan inside. That beautiful, vibrant young man now slumped in a wheelchair, his face hollow with despair. "Oh, Mijo," she whispered, using the Spanish endearment she'd called him since he was little. Nathan tried to smile at her. "Hey, Rosa." She came to him immediately, kneeling beside his wheelchair, taking his hands. "We're going to figure this out. You're going to be okay." Nathan's eyes filled with tears. "What if I'm not? What if this is permanent?" Rosa squeezed his hands tighter. "Don't think like that. Have faith." But inside, Rosa felt a deep sense of dread. Not about Nathan's condition, but about something else. Something she couldn't quite name yet. Over the next few days, Rosa threw herself into helping care for Nathan. The nurse, a kind woman named Diane, handled the medical aspects. But Rosa did everything else. She brought him meals. She sat with him when he couldn't sleep. She listened when he needed to talk. She was there. Nathan's friends came to visit at first. His teammates, his girlfriend, classmates. But as days turned into weeks with no improvement, the visits became less frequent. People didn't know what to say. They felt uncomfortable around his wheelchair. Life was moving on for everyone else, and Nathan was stuck, frozen, watching his future slip away. Marcus was rarely home. He buried himself in work, unable to face his son's condition. When he was home, he barely spoke to Nathan. The silence between them grew heavy with disappointment and fear. Vanessa continued her performance. Concerned in public, cold in private. She'd make sympathetic comments to visitors about how difficult this was for the family. But Rosa noticed things. Small things. The way Vanessa's mouth tightened when Nathan made progress in physical therapy. The way she seemed almost pleased when a new round of tests came back negative. The way she discouraged Marcus from spending time with Nathan. "He needs rest," Vanessa would say. "You hovering won't help him." Rosa also noticed how Vanessa had started taking control of more aspects of Marcus's life. His schedule, his social obligations, his business decisions. She'd inserted herself into everything, and Marcus seemed too overwhelmed by Nathan's condition to notice or care. One evening, about a month after Nathan came home, Rosa was cleaning Nathan's room. He was in physical therapy with Diane in the living room. Rosa was changing his sheets when she noticed something odd. A faint, dusty residue on Nathan's nightstand. It was barely visible, just a light coating near where he kept his water glass. Rosa wiped it with her cloth and looked at the residue. It was grayish-white, powdery. Like crushed medication or supplement powder. Strange. She made a mental note but thought nothing more of it at the time. The next morning, Rosa came to bring Nathan his breakfast. He was sitting in his wheelchair by the window, staring outside at the basketball hoop in the driveway. His hands were clenched in his lap. "Good morning, Mijo," Rosa said softly. Brought you some eggs and toast. Nathan didn't turn. I should be at practice right now. Coach is probably running drills. The team's playing their first game next week. Rosa set the tray down and came to stand beside him. I know this is hard. Hard. Nathan's voice cracked. Rosa, I can't walk. I can't play basketball. I can't go to Princeton. I can't do anything. And no one knows why. What if it's all in my head like some of the doctors think? What if I'm doing this to myself somehow? Rosa put her hand on his shoulder. You're not doing this to yourself. Your body is fighting something. The doctors just haven't figured out what yet. Nathan finally looked at her, his eyes red. What if they never figure it out? Rosa didn't have an answer for that. She just squeezed his shoulder and said, then we'll learn to live with it. But I don't think it'll come to that. She believed it. She didn't know why, but she felt deep in her bones that something else was going on. Something the doctors with all their tests and machines weren't seeing. That night, Rosa couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Nathan. About how sudden his paralysis had been. How the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. How it made no medical sense. She thought about Vanessa's odd behavior. The calculating looks. The coldness. Rosa had worked in enough wealthy homes to know that money brought out the worst in people. That family members did terrible things to each other over inheritances and control. Could Vanessa be involved somehow? It seemed impossible. How could someone cause paralysis without leaving medical evidence? But Rosa couldn't shake the feeling. She decided she would pay closer attention. Watch more carefully. Because something was very wrong in this house. And if no one else was going to figure it out, maybe she would have to try. The next morning, Rosa arrived early. The house was quiet. Marcus had already left for work. Vanessa was still asleep. Diane didn't arrive until 9. Rosa went to Nathan's room to check on him. He was still sleeping, his face peaceful in a way it never was when he was awake. Rosa quietly began tidying his room. She picked up some books from his desk. She straightened his closet. And then she noticed the water glass on his nightstand again. That same faint dusty residue around the rim. Rosa picked up the glass and held it to the light. The residue was so faint it was almost invisible. Most people would never notice it. But Rosa cleaned houses for a living. She noticed everything. She took the glass to the bathroom and rinsed it, watching the water swirl down the drain. Then she went downstairs, her mind racing. In the kitchen, she found Patricia preparing breakfast. Morning, Rosa, Patricia said. You're here early. Couldn't sleep, Rosa replied. She poured herself coffee and sat at the kitchen table, thinking. Patricia, who had worked for the family for 10 years, sat across from her. How's Nathan doing? Rosa shook her head. Not good. He's losing hope. Patricia sighed. Poor boy. It makes no sense. One day fine, the next day paralyzed. And all those doctors with no answers. Yeah, Rosa said slowly. It doesn't make sense. She looked at Patricia. Has anything changed in the house recently? Before Nathan got sick? Patricia thought about it. Not really. Same routine as always. Well, except Vanessa's been around more. She used to travel with Marcus a lot, but lately she's been staying home. Rosa filed that information away. Vanessa's staying home more. Right before Nathan got sick. Could be coincidence. Could be something else. Rosa decided she needed to watch more carefully. She needed to document what she saw. And she needed to trust her instincts. Because something told her that the answer to Nathan's mysterious paralysis wasn't in any medical textbook. It was right here, in this house, hidden in plain sight. She just had to find it. Rosa began watching everything with new eyes. She moved through the house like she always had, cleaning, organizing, staying invisible. But now she was paying attention to details she might have missed before. She watched Vanessa's routines. She noted when people came and went. She listened to conversations. And most importantly, she watched what happened around Nathan. Every morning, Rosa arrived at the house at 7. She'd make her way to Nathan's room first, just to check on him before starting her other duties. Nathan was usually awake by then, lying in bed staring at the ceiling or trying to do simple exercises Diane had taught him. Exercises that went nowhere. His legs remained stubbornly paralyzed. One morning, about 6 weeks after Nathan's paralysis began, Rosa arrived to find Vanessa coming out of Nathan's room. It was early, barely 7:15. Vanessa was already dressed in workout clothes, her hair pulled back, looking fresh and put together. "Oh, Rosa," Vanessa said, startled. "You're here early." Rosa kept her expression neutral. "Same time as always, Mrs. Morrison." Vanessa smiled, that cold smile that never reached her eyes. "I was just checking on Nathan, making sure he had everything he needed for the day." Rosa nodded. "That's kind of you." Vanessa walked past her toward the stairs. Rosa waited until she heard Vanessa's footsteps fade, then quietly entered Nathan's room. Nathan was awake, propped up on pillows, looking tired. On his nightstand was a glass of water and his morning medications, the vitamins and supplements the doctors had prescribed. "Morning, me Joe," Rosa said softly. Nathan gave her a weak smile. "Morning, Rosa." Rosa came closer, her eyes drawn to the water glass. There it was again, that faint dusty residue on the rim. Her heart began to beat faster. "Did you take your vitamins already?" Rosa asked casually. Nathan shook his head. "Not yet. Vanessa just brought them. Said I should take them with breakfast." Rosa picked up the glass, holding it up to the light from the window. The residue was there, unmistakable once you knew to look for it. "Let me get you fresh water," Rosa said. "This glass has dust in it." She took the glass before Nathan could respond and went to the bathroom. She poured the water out, but not before noticing how it seemed slightly cloudy. Not much, just enough to make her suspicious. Rosa rinsed the glass thoroughly and refilled it with clean water from the tap. When she returned, she set it down and looked at the pills on the nightstand. There were 4 of them. A multivitamin, vitamin D, magnesium, and one white pill she didn't recognize. "What's this one?" Rosa asked, pointing to the white pill. Nathan glanced at it. "Oh, that's new. Vanessa said the doctor prescribed it. Something to help with nerve function." Rosa's blood ran cold. "Which doctor?" Nathan shrugged. "I don't know. One of the specialists, I guess. Vanessa handles all that stuff with my dad." Rosa forced herself to stay calm. "I'll let you get to breakfast. Patricia made your favorite." She left the room, her mind racing. A new pill that Nathan didn't know about. That Vanessa said came from a doctor. But which doctor? And why hadn't Diane, the nurse, mentioned it? Rosa went downstairs and found Patricia in the kitchen. "Patricia, has Diane said anything about new medications for Nathan?" Patricia looked up from the stove. "Not that I know of." "Why?" Rosa hesitated. She didn't want to say too much, not yet. "Just wondering. There's a white pill I don't recognize." Patricia shook her head. "Diane would tell us if there was something new. She's very thorough about his medication schedule." Rosa nodded slowly. So the pill hadn't come from the doctors. It had come from Vanessa. And Vanessa had lied to Nathan about it. Rosa knew she needed proof before she could say anything to anyone. She couldn't just accuse Marcus Morrison's wife of something based on a dusty glass and a suspicious pill. She'd be fired immediately, and then no one would be there to protect Nathan. So Rosa formed a plan. Over the next few days, she began documenting everything. She started arriving even earlier, before Vanessa usually went to Nathan's room. She'd check his nightstand, his water glass, everything. And every morning, she found the same thing. Fresh water in the glass. Pills laid out. And after Vanessa's visits, that faint dusty residue. Rosa started taking the pills. Not all of them. Nathan needed his actual vitamins. But that white pill, the one that Vanessa said was for nerve function, Rosa started pocketing it when Nathan wasn't looking and replacing it with a similar-looking vitamin C tablet. She collected the white pills in a small plastic bag and hid them in her locker. She also started paying attention to Nathan's patterns. On days when he took all the pills Vanessa left, including the white one, Nathan seemed more lethargic, more depressed. His physical therapy sessions went poorly. But on the days Rosa managed to swap out the white pill, Nathan seemed slightly better, more alert, more hopeful. The difference was subtle, but it was there. Rosa also started watching Vanessa more closely. She noticed that Vanessa went into Marcus's home office frequently, always when he wasn't there. She noticed that Vanessa received packages, small padded envelopes, that she took directly to her room without letting anyone see. She noticed that Vanessa seemed very interested in Nathan's trust fund, asking Marcus questions about when Nathan would get access to it. Rosa remembered that Nathan's mother, Claire, had left Nathan a substantial trust fund. He was supposed to get control of it when he turned 18 or when he graduated from college, whichever came first. Nathan's 18th birthday was in 3 months. If Nathan was incapacitated, unable to manage his own affairs, who would control that money? Rosa didn't know much about legal matters, but she knew enough to understand that money made people do terrible things. One afternoon, Rosa was cleaning the upstairs hallway when she heard Vanessa on the phone in the master bedroom. The door was slightly open, and Vanessa's voice carried. "I'm telling you, it's working perfectly," Vanessa said. "The doctors can't find anything because there's nothing to find. By the time anyone figures it out, if they ever do, it'll be too late." Rosa froze, her heart pounding. She moved closer to the door, straining to hear. "The trust fund becomes accessible in 3 months," Vanessa continued. "But if he's declared mentally or physically incompetent, Marcus will have control. And I have control over Marcus. It's perfect." There was a pause as the person on the other end spoke. No one suspects anything," Vanessa said, her voice confident. "The maid is invisible. The nurse only sees what I want her to see. And Marcus is so buried in guilt and work he doesn't pay attention to anything. It's all going exactly as planned." Rosa's hands trembled. She quickly moved away from the door before Vanessa could catch her listening. She went downstairs, her mind reeling. Vanessa was doing something to Nathan, deliberately making him sick, keeping him paralyzed. All for money. Rosa needed to tell someone. But who? Marcus wouldn't believe her. He was completely under Vanessa's influence. The police would need evidence, real evidence, not just overheard phone conversations. The doctors had found nothing wrong with Nathan medically. Rosa went to Nathan's room. He was sitting in his wheelchair, attempting to read a book but clearly struggling to focus. "How are you feeling today, Mijo?" Rosa asked. Nathan sighed. "Same as every day. Useless." Rosa came and sat beside him. "Nathan, I need to ask you something. And I need you to trust me." Nathan looked at her, curious. "Okay." Rosa chose her words carefully. "Has anyone been giving you anything to eat or drink? Besides your regular meals and the pills the doctors prescribed?" Nathan thought about it. "Just the stuff Vanessa brings. She's been bringing me smoothies in the morning sometimes. Says they're good for my health. And tea at night to help me sleep." Rosa's chest tightened. "How long has she been doing that?" Nathan shrugged. "I don't know. A few weeks? Maybe longer? It started before I even got sick, I think. She said she was trying to be a better stepmother." Rosa felt sick. "Nathan, this is very important. Do you still have any of those smoothies or tea bags?" Nathan shook his head. "No, I drink the smoothies right away, and Vanessa takes the cups. And she makes the tea fresh each time." Rosa nodded, her mind working. She needed to catch Vanessa in the act. She needed proof that couldn't be denied. "Nathan, I need you to do something for me," Rosa said quietly. "The next time Vanessa brings you something to drink, can you save some of it? Pour it into another container when she's not looking. And don't drink it." Nathan's eyes widened. "But, Rosa, what's going on?" Rosa looked at him seriously. "I think someone is making you sick on purpose. And I think I know who." Nathan stared at her, his face going pale. "You think Vanessa is poisoning me?" Rosa put her hand on his. "I don't know for sure. But I'm going to find out. Will you help me?" Nathan sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Yeah, I'll help." Rosa squeezed his hand. But you can't tell anyone. Not your father. Not Diane. No one. If Vanessa finds out we're suspicious, she'll stop and we'll never prove it." Nathan nodded again, his jaw set. For the first time in weeks, there was something other than despair in his eyes. There was anger. And determination. Rosa left his room feeling both terrified and resolved. She was going up against a woman who had money, power, and Marcus's complete trust. But Rosa had something Vanessa didn't. She had the truth. And she had love for Nathan that made her willing to risk everything. The next morning, Vanessa brought Nathan his usual smoothie. Rosa had coached him the night before. Nathan drank half of it while Vanessa watched, smiling. Then when Vanessa left, he poured the rest into a plastic bottle Rosa had hidden in his drawer. Rosa retrieved it later and put it in her locker with the white pills. She needed to get these items tested. But how? She couldn't afford a private lab. She didn't know any doctors personally. Then Rosa remembered her son, Carlos. He worked as a lab technician at a hospital across town. Rosa called him that evening. "Carlos, I need your help," she said. "It's important. Life or death." Carlos, who trusted his mother completely, agreed to help. "Bring me whatever you have," he said. "I'll test it quietly. Don't tell me where it came from yet. Just let me see what's in it." Rosa felt a surge of hope. She was getting closer to the truth. And when she had it, when she had undeniable proof, Vanessa's perfect plan would come crashing down. Rosa met her son Carlos at a small diner halfway between their homes. She carried a small insulated bag containing the plastic bottle with the smoothie remnants and the white pills she'd collected over the past week. Carlos was already there when she arrived, sitting in a corner booth looking concerned. He stood when he saw her, embracing her tightly. "Mama, what's going on? You sounded scared on the phone." Rosa slid into the booth across from him and pushed the bag toward him. "I need you to test what's in here. And I need you to tell no one. Not your brothers. Not your wife. No one." Carlos opened the bag and peered inside at the bottle and the pills in the plastic baggie. "What am I looking for?" Rosa leaned forward, her voice low. "Anything that shouldn't be there. Anything that could hurt someone. Poison. Drugs. Anything." Carlos's eyes widened. "Mama, where did this come from?" Rosa shook her head. "I can't tell you yet. Not until I know for sure. Please, Mijo. Just test it." Carlos studied his mother's face. He saw the fear there, the determination, the desperate need for help. He'd never seen her like this before. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll run it through our equipment after hours. It might take a few days to get complete results." Rosa grabbed his hand across the table. "Thank you. And Carlos, be careful. If what I think is in there is really in there, this is dangerous." Carlos nodded slowly, putting the bag in his backpack. "I'll call you as soon as I know something." They talked for a few more minutes, Carlos trying to get more information, Rosa deflecting his questions. Finally, they parted ways, and Rosa drove back to the Morrison estate feeling both relieved and terrified. She had taken the first real step. Now she just had to wait. The next few days were torture. Rosa went about her normal duties, cleaning, helping with Nathan, keeping everything routine. But inside, her nerves were stretched thin. She watched Vanessa like a hawk. Vanessa continued her morning visits to Nathan's room, bringing smoothies and pills. Rosa continued swapping out the white pill when she could, replacing it with harmless vitamins. And Nathan played along, pretending to take everything Vanessa gave him while secretly saving portions of the smoothies for Rosa to collect. Rosa noticed that on the days Nathan didn't actually consume what Vanessa brought, he seemed incrementally better. Not dramatically, the damage was already done. But his mind was clearer. His spirits slightly higher. It confirmed what Rosa already suspected. Vanessa was dosing him with something. Something that was keeping him paralyzed and foggy. On the third day after meeting Carlos, Rosa's phone rang while she was dusting the library. It was Carlos. "Mama," his voice was tight with shock. "We need to talk. Not on the phone. Can you meet me?" Rosa's heart raced. "You found something. This. And it's bad. Really bad." Rosa glanced around to make sure she was alone. "I'll come after work. Same place." She hung up and took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had been right. Vanessa was poisoning Nathan. The question now was what to do about it. The rest of the day crawled by. Rosa could barely focus on her tasks. She kept making mistakes, cleaning the same surfaces twice, forgetting where she'd put things. Finally, her shift ended at 5. She grabbed her purse and drove to the diner, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Carlos was already there, looking grim. He had papers spread out on the table in front of him. "Sit down, Mama," he said quietly. Rosa slid into the booth. Carlos pushed the papers toward her. They were lab results, full of technical terms and numbers Rosa didn't understand. "Explain it to me," she said. Carlos pointed to the first page. The smoothie sample contained high levels of a drug called vecuronium. It's a neuromuscular blocking agent. Hospitals use it during surgery to temporarily paralyze patients. Rosa's blood ran cold. "Paralyze?" Carlos nodded. "In the doses used medically, it wears off quickly and completely. But if someone were given small doses repeatedly over time, it could cause prolonged paralysis. And because it's metabolized quickly by the body, it wouldn't show up in standard drug tests unless someone was specifically looking for it." Rosa felt tears burning her eyes. "And the pills?" Carlos's face darkened. "The pills contain the same drug, vecuronium, plus something else. A benzodiazepine, basically a sedative. Enough to keep someone confused and lethargic, but not enough to be obvious." Rosa covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God. She's been doing this for weeks." Carlos leaned forward. "Mama, whoever is doing this is committing attempted murder. This is serious. You need to go to the police right now." Rosa shook her head. "It's not that simple. The woman doing this is married to one of the most powerful men in the state. She has money, lawyers, connections. If I go to the police without more proof, she'll just deny everything and I'll be fired. Or worse." Carlos grabbed her hands. "Then what are you going to do?" Rosa thought for a moment. "I need to catch her with the drugs. I need proof that she's the one putting this in his food and medicine. I need something undeniable." Carlos looked worried. "That's dangerous. If she figures out you know." "She won't," Rosa said firmly. "I've been invisible in that house for 15 years. She doesn't even really see me. That's my advantage." Carlos printed copies of the lab results and gave them to Rosa. "Keep these somewhere safe. And Mama, please be careful. Promise me." Rosa hugged her son tightly. "I promise. And thank you. You might have just saved that boy's life." She drove back to the Morrison estate, her mind racing with plans. She had the evidence that Nathan was being poisoned. Now she needed evidence that Vanessa was the one doing it. Rosa knew she couldn't just accuse Vanessa. She needed to catch her red-handed. She needed video proof, witnesses, something that couldn't be explained away. That night, Rosa lay in her small room in the staff quarters and formed a plan. It was risky, maybe even dangerous. But it was the only way. The next morning, Rosa arrived at work with a small spy camera she'd bought at an electronics store on her way home. It was tiny, barely bigger than a button, and it could record for hours. Rosa's hands shook as she entered Nathan's room early, before anyone else was awake. Nathan was still sleeping. Rosa quickly and quietly positioned the camera on a bookshelf across from Nathan's nightstand, hiding it behind a picture frame. The angle was perfect. It would capture anyone who approached the nightstand where Nathan's water and pills were kept. Rosa adjusted it carefully, making sure it was recording, then slipped out of the room before Nathan woke. She went about her normal duties, her heart pounding all day. Every time she saw Vanessa, she had to fight to keep her expression neutral, to not show the rage and disgust she felt. That morning, Vanessa went to Nathan's room as usual. Rosa watched from down the hallway as Vanessa entered with a smoothie and stayed for about 10 minutes. When Vanessa left, Rosa waited a bit, then went to check on Nathan. "She brought the usual," Nathan said quietly. He'd saved half the smoothie as planned, pouring it into a bottle Rosa had hidden for him. "Good," Rosa said, taking the bottle. "How do you feel today?" Nathan shrugged. "A little better, actually. Clearer, I think." Rosa smiled. Because he wasn't actually taking the poison anymore. His body was starting to clear it out of his system. But they had to keep pretending everything was normal, or Vanessa would get suspicious. For 3 days, Rosa let the camera record. She collected the footage each night after everyone was asleep, watching it on her laptop in her room. The first day showed Vanessa entering with the smoothie and pills, but the angle wasn't quite right. Rosa couldn't see clearly what Vanessa was doing. The second day was better. Rosa could see Vanessa setting down the smoothie, but the pills were already in her hand when she entered. Rosa needed to catch her actually preparing the poison. On the third day, Rosa got what she needed. The camera captured Vanessa entering Nathan's room early in the morning. But this time, she was carrying a small cosmetic bag along with the smoothie. Vanessa glanced around, making sure she was alone. Then she opened the cosmetic bag and pulled out a small vial and a syringe. The camera captured everything. Vanessa drawing liquid from the vial into the syringe. Vanessa injecting the liquid into the smoothie and stirring it. Vanessa pulling out pills from a prescription bottle hidden in the bag, pills that clearly weren't Nathan's prescribed medications. Vanessa arranging everything on the nightstand, placing the doctored smoothie and the poison pills exactly where Nathan would take them. Then Vanessa stepped back, smoothed her hair, put on a concerned smile, and gently woke Nathan up. "Good morning, sweetie." Vanessa's voice came through clearly on the recording. "I brought you your breakfast smoothie and your medications. You need to keep taking these so you can get better." Nathan's sleepy voice responded. "Thanks, Vanessa." The camera captured it all. Crystal clear. Undeniable. Rosa watched the footage 3 times to make sure it was clear, that there was no way to misinterpret what was happening. Then she made copies. 1 on a flash drive. 1 uploaded to a cloud storage account Carlos helped her set up. 1 emailed to herself. She wasn't taking any chances. Now came the hardest part, deciding what to do with the evidence. Rosa's first instinct was to go to Marcus immediately, to show him what his wife was doing to his son. But Rosa knew Marcus. She'd watched him over the years become more and more dependent on Vanessa. Vanessa controlled his schedule, his social life, his decisions. If Rosa went to Marcus alone, Vanessa would find a way to explain it away. She'd claim the video was faked. She'd say Rosa was trying to cause trouble. She'd use her influence over Marcus to make him doubt the evidence. Rosa needed to be smarter. She needed allies. She needed to present the evidence in a way that couldn't be denied or swept under the rug. Rosa thought about the police, but she was afraid. Afraid they wouldn't take her seriously. Afraid Vanessa's lawyers would intimidate her. Afraid she'd be deported, even though she was here legally. Fear was powerful, and Vanessa knew how to use it. Then Rosa had an idea. Nathan's doctor, Dr. Chen, the neurologist who'd been treating Nathan since the beginning. He was a good man, thorough and caring. He'd been frustrated by his inability to diagnose Nathan. If Rosa showed him the evidence, if he understood what had been done to his patient, he would have to act. Doctors were mandated reporters. They had to report suspected abuse. And Dr. Chen had the credibility and authority that Rosa lacked. Rosa called Dr. Chen's office and made an appointment, claiming she had important information about Nathan's case. The receptionist was skeptical, but Rosa was persistent. Finally, she got an appointment for the next afternoon. Rosa also decided to tell Nathan everything. He deserved to know the truth about what had been done to him. That evening, after everyone else had gone to bed, Rosa went to Nathan's room. He was awake, reading on his tablet. "Nathan," Rosa said quietly, closing the door behind her, "I need to show you something. But you have to prepare yourself. It's going to be very upsetting." Nathan set down his tablet. "You found proof, didn't you? About Vanessa?" Rosa nodded. She pulled out her laptop and pulled up the video. "Watch this." Nathan watched in silence as the video played. Rosa saw his face change as he watched Vanessa deliberately poisoning his smoothie and pills. His expression went from confusion to shock to rage. When the video ended, Nathan's hands were shaking. "She did this to me," he whispered. "She took away my legs, my future, my life. For what? Money." Rosa showed him the lab results. "This drug she's been giving you causes paralysis. But Nathan, the doctors said if you stop taking it, the effects should reverse. Your body should heal." Nathan looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. "You mean I can walk again?" Rosa nodded. "I think so. You've already been getting better since we stopped you from actually taking the poison. It might take time, but yes. You should recover. Nathan broke down crying. Relief, rage, grief, all of it pouring out at once. Rosa held him like she used to when he was little, letting him cry, letting him process. Finally, Nathan pulled back and wiped his eyes. What do we do now? Rosa explained her plan. Show the evidence to Dr. Chin. Let him report it to the authorities. Build a case that couldn't be dismissed. But we have to be careful, Rosa warned. Vanessa can't know we're onto her. Not until we're ready. Nathan nodded. I can keep pretending. I've been doing it this long. Rosa squeezed his hand. Just a little longer. Then this nightmare ends. As Rosa left Nathan's room that night, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she'd felt in years. She was going to bring Vanessa down. She was going to save Nathan. And she was going to make sure justice was served. Tomorrow, everything would change. The truth was about to come out, and there would be no stopping it. Rosa arrived at Dr. Chen's office at 2 o'clock the next afternoon. She had told Marcus she needed to leave early for a family emergency. He barely looked up from his computer when she asked, just waved his hand in dismissal. Vanessa had been out shopping, which made everything easier. Rosa carried her purse with the flash drive, the lab results, and printed screenshots from the video. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked in with the receptionist. I'm here to see Dr. Chin. Rosa Martinez. I have an appointment. The receptionist checked her computer, frowned slightly, then nodded. He's finishing up with a patient. Please have a seat. Rosa sat in the waiting room, her heart pounding. Everything depended on this. Dr. Chin had to believe her. He had to take action. After 15 minutes that felt like hours, a nurse called her name. Rosa followed her down a hallway to Dr. Chen's private office. Dr. Chin stood when she entered. He was in his 50s, with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Ms. Martinez, please sit. My receptionist said you have information about Nathan Morrison? Rosa sat down, clutching her purse. Yes, doctor. I work for the Morrison family. I've been taking care of Nathan since he was a baby. Dr. Chin nodded. I remember seeing you at the hospital. You've been very devoted to him. Rosa took a deep breath. Dr. Chin, I know why Nathan is paralyzed. And it's not a medical mystery. Dr. Chin leaned forward, his expression serious. I'm listening. Rosa pulled out the flash drive and the lab results. Nathan is being poisoned. His stepmother has been giving him a paralytic drug for months. I have proof. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. Rosa handed him the lab results first. My son works as a lab technician. I had him test samples of what Nathan's been given. It's vecuronium. In the smoothies in pills that aren't from you or any other doctor. Dr. Chin studied the lab results, his face growing darker. This is extremely serious. Vecuronium used this way, this is criminal. Rosa pulled out her laptop. There's more. I recorded her doing it. She opened the video file and turned the laptop toward Dr. Chin. He watched in silence, his expression shifting from disbelief to horror to anger. The video played. Vanessa entering Nathan's room. Opening her cosmetic bag. Drawing the drug into a syringe. Injecting it into the smoothie. Placing the poisoned pills on the nightstand. Acting concerned and caring while deliberately destroying a young man's life. When the video ended, Dr. Chin sat back in his chair, his face pale. My God, he whispered. I've been treating this boy for months, running every test imaginable, and all this time. Rosa leaned forward. Can you help him? If he stops taking this drug, will he recover? Dr. Chin nodded slowly. Yes. Vecuronium's effects are reversible once exposure stops. It might take weeks or months depending on how much damage has been done, but Nathan should regain full function. He looked at Rosa with newfound respect. You saved his life. If this had continued much longer, the psychological damage alone could have been permanent. Not to mention the physical atrophy. Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. He's a good boy. He didn't deserve this. Dr. Chin stood up. Ms. Martinez, I need to contact the police immediately. This is attempted murder. And I need to get Nathan away from that woman as soon as possible. Rosa nodded. But we have to be careful. Vanessa has money and lawyers. If she gets warning, she might destroy evidence or run. Dr. Chen picked up his phone. I'm calling Detective Sarah Reeves. She specializes in domestic abuse cases. She'll know how to handle this discreetly. Rosa sat in Dr. Chen's office for the next hour as he made calls. First to Detective Reeves, explaining the situation and sending her the evidence. Then to Child Protective Services, even though Nathan was 17, because he was a vulnerable dependent due to his condition. Then to the hospital's legal department. The wheels of justice began turning. Detective Reeves arrived at Dr. Chen's office within 2 hours. She was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed all the evidence carefully, asking Rosa detailed questions. This is solid, Detective Reeves said finally. The video alone is damning, but combined with the lab results and the medical testimony, we have a strong case. She looked at Rosa. You understand you'll need to testify? This won't be easy. Rosa nodded. I'll do whatever it takes. Detective Reeves made more calls. To the district attorney's office. To a judge, requesting an emergency warrant. By evening, everything was in place. Here's how this will work, Detective Reeves explained. Tomorrow morning, I'll execute the warrant at the Morrison residence. We'll arrest Vanessa Morrison on charges of attempted murder and assault. We'll also get Nathan to the hospital immediately for treatment and evaluation. Rosa felt relief wash over her. What about Marcus? Nathan's father? Detective Reeves's expression softened slightly. That's complicated. We'll need to determine if he was complicit or simply blind to what was happening. Either way, Nathan will be protected. Rosa drove home that night feeling lighter than she had in months. Tomorrow, the nightmare would end. The next morning, Rosa arrived at the Morrison estate at her usual time. She tried to act normal, going through her regular routine. Vanessa was in the breakfast room, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone, looking perfectly composed. Marcus had already left for an early meeting. Nathan was still in his room. At exactly 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Rosa, who had been expecting it, went to answer. 4 police officers stood on the doorstep, along with Detective Reeves. We have a warrant for the arrest of Vanessa Morrison, Detective Reeves said formally. Rosa stepped aside to let them in. Vanessa looked up from her coffee, confusion crossing her face. What's going on? Detective Reeves approached her. Vanessa Morrison, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Nathan Morrison. You have the right to remain silent. Vanessa's face went white, then red. This is absurd. I don't know what you're talking about. Detective Reeves pulled out handcuffs. We have video evidence of you administering poison to Nathan Morrison. We have lab results proving what you gave him. And we have witnesses. Stand up, please. Vanessa looked around wildly, her perfect composure cracking. Rosa did this. She's lying. She's always been jealous of me, trying to turn Nathan against me. Rosa stepped into view, her face calm. I have a video of you poisoning him. Your own hands, your own face, your own voice. No one needs to lie when the truth is right there. Vanessa lunged toward Rosa, but the officers restrained her. You bitch. You've ruined everything. Detective Reeves read Vanessa her rights as they led her out in handcuffs. Vanessa screamed the whole way, threats and accusations, her mask completely shattered. Rosa watched them put her in the police car, feeling a sense of justice so profound it brought tears to her eyes. Once Vanessa was gone, Detective Reeves and a victim advocate went to Nathan's room. Rosa followed. Nathan was sitting up in bed, looking nervous. He'd known this was coming, but actually seeing it happen was overwhelming. Nathan, Detective Reeves said gently, I'm Detective Sarah Reeves. We've arrested Vanessa Morrison for what she did to you. You're safe now. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. Is it really over? Detective Reeves nodded. The criminal case is just beginning, but she can't hurt you anymore. We're taking you to the hospital. Dr. Chen wants to start treatment immediately to help you recover. 2 paramedics came in with a stretcher. As they prepared to move Nathan, he reached for Rosa's hand. Come with me. Rosa squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Mijo. At the hospital, Dr. Chen took charge of Nathan's care. He started him on a treatment protocol to help his body clear the remaining drug and begin physical therapy to rebuild his strength. It'll take time, Dr. Chen explained to Nathan. But you should make a full recovery. You're young and strong. Your body will heal. Nathan nodded, hope shining in his eyes for the first time in months. Marcus arrived at the hospital 3 hours later, having been contacted by police. He looked destroyed, aged 10 years in a single morning. He went straight to Nathan's room. Rosa stepped out to give them privacy, but she could hear their voices through the door. I'm so sorry, Marcus's voice was broken. I should have seen it. I should have protected you. Nathan's response was quiet. You didn't know. That's not an excuse, Marcus said. I was so wrapped up in my own life, in my grief over your mother, that I let that woman into our home. I trusted her. And she almost killed you. There was silence for a moment. Then Nathan spoke. Dad, Rosa saved me. She figured it out when no one else did. When all those doctors with all their degrees couldn't find anything wrong, she knew something was off. She risked everything to help me. Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. I know. I owe her everything. Later, Marcus found Rosa in the hospital cafeteria. He sat down across from her, looking at her like he was really seeing her for the first time in years. Rosa, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my son's life. Rosa shook her head. I just did what was right. Marcus pulled out an envelope and pushed it across the table. This is for you. It's not payment. You can't pay someone for saving your child's life. But I want you to have it anyway. Rosa opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $500,000. Her hands shook. Mr. Morrison, I can't. Yes, you can, Marcus said firmly. You've worked for my family for 15 years. You loved my wife. You raised my son when I was too broken to do it myself. And you saved him when everyone else, including me, failed. Please, take it. Use it to secure your future, help your family, whatever you want. Rosa looked at the check, then at Marcus. She saw genuine gratitude in his eyes. Genuine remorse. Thank you, she whispered. Over the next few weeks, Nathan began to improve. Slowly at first, then faster. First he could wiggle his toes. Then flex his feet. Then bend his knees. The physical therapists were amazed at his progress. 3 weeks after Vanessa's arrest, Nathan took his first steps with assistance. He cried. Rosa cried. Marcus cried. The physical therapist cried. It was a miracle, except it wasn't. It was just Nathan's strong young body healing from the poison that had been stolen from his system. Vanessa's trial became a media sensation. The beautiful wife who tried to murder her stepson for his inheritance. The evidence was overwhelming. The video, the lab results, Dr. Chen's testimony, Rosa's testimony. Vanessa's lawyer tried everything, but there was no defense against the truth captured on camera. She was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Justice was served. Nathan returned to school 6 months after his arrest. He'd missed most of his senior year, but he worked hard and graduated with his class. His scholarship to Princeton was reinstated. He even played basketball again, though not at the level he had before. Some things couldn't be completely undone. But he was alive. He could walk. He had a future. Rosa retired from housekeeping. With the money Marcus gave her, she bought a small house and started a non-profit organization to help other domestic workers who witnessed abuse. She became an advocate, a voice for those who were invisible. Nathan visited her often. She was family after all. She always had been. 1 year after everything happened, Nathan came to visit Rosa on a Sunday afternoon. They sat in her garden, drinking lemonade. I got accepted into the pre-med program at Princeton, Nathan said. I'm going to become a doctor. Rosa smiled. Your mother would be so proud. Nathan nodded. I keep thinking about how close I came to losing everything. How if you hadn't been paying attention, if you hadn't cared enough to look deeper, I'd still be in that wheelchair. Or dead. Rosa took his hand. But that didn't happen. You survived. And now you're going to help other people survive. Nathan squeezed her hand. Because you taught me what it means to really see people. To pay attention to those everyone else ignores. That's the kind of doctor I want to be. Rosa felt tears in her eyes. Then you'll be a wonderful doctor. They sat together in the sunshine, a family bound not by blood but by love and loyalty and the truth that had set them both free. Sometimes the smallest voice sees what everyone else misses. Sometimes the invisible person is the only one really paying attention. And sometimes, love is about having the courage to fight for someone when no one else will. That's what Rosa had done. And in saving Nathan, she had proven that every person matters. That every voice deserves to be heard. That the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way to light. If this story touched you, subscribe to Every Mind Stories. Hit like if you believe everyone deserves protection and justice. Comment, truth always wins, if you stand with those who fight for the vulnerable. Share this with someone who needs hope. Because sometimes one person's courage can change everything. Thank you for watching. Remember, pay attention to the quiet ones. They see more than you think.